Welcome to this week's episode of the NERO Show, your home of unfiltered cycling chat.
Campy Wireless product release. We take a deep dive into the coverage and our thoughts on it.
Campy's product release has us delving deep down conspiracy corner.
Enve Melee. Why did it flop so bad?
Is your coach killing local racing? And apologies for the audio quality in today's episode. A gremlin did sneak their way into this recording. We have solved the issue for future episodes, but unfortunately it's stuck around for this one. All right, let's get into it. So Campy have launched their Super Record Groupset, the wireless Super Record Groupset. And I saw you got into a little bit of to and fro on some social media platforms, but I wanted to start with not necessarily the product, but like how this product was launched. And I want to ask you the question, how did you experience the launch of this product?
Yep. Probably one of the first launches we've done as people who, I guess, analyze how this stuff sort of works. So I woke up, opened the phone. First place I saw it, YouTube homepage. It was it was a Charlie Carbs and Cycling overview of it, and then homepage, it was the Dave Arthur. It was all YouTube. That was pretty much it. I watched those, get a general overview of it, and then nothing on Instagram. Interestingly, usually if there's a release, someone's put it in their story or something like that. So nothing on Instagram, and then Twitter is where the cycling media articles get fed to me. So I saw it on Twitter after, but really YouTube central for me. What about you?
Text from Jesse Coyle, but yeah, because you're going straight onto it. But yeah, for me, that's the sort of way that I am biased in the sense that I don't have any subscriptions to any of the kind of magazine type things. But the way I definitely experienced it first was on YouTube. But this is sort of what I want to get into, because this just seemed, and maybe we disagree, but this just seemed really weird from the offset, okay? So the videos I watched, so I watched Dave Arthur's video, I watched the Cycling Weekly video, and then I watched the Bike Radar video, okay? They were the three in that order. And the Dave Arthur one, this to me was just odd, because it was probably the biggest product launch, especially in my world. I'm a hands down Campy fanboy. Probably when we started riding, when you met me, I was probably riding a Campy Groupset at the time. Massive fanboy, right? So this is a big deal for me. And it's a Dave Arthur video of him at his local bike shop with like the shop bike that they had Campy on. And look, he did it got me excited. Like it got all the sort of bits and pieces done on it, but that was the first one. Then I went to the Cycling Weekly video, and it's a guy talking to camera about his experience riding it the other week, where they kind of let him out for 40 Ks to do a little ride of it, and he was sort of going off on it from that perspective. And then the Bike Radar one was similar. It was a guy talking to camera about someone just reading the press release, but then kind of giving a second-hand thoughts of his mate who had been at the event riding it, and so-and-so thought this, so-and-so thought that. It just...
What were you expecting?
Okay, well...
weird?
Yes, for me that's weird. And I don't know, it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like the chat we had with Jeff about the Cannondale Lab 71, big press junket, in they all go, here we are, we're riding it, here's all the bikes all together. And the information seemed really scant as well. So, we weren't given really any weights. It didn't seem as though any of the guys who were given opportunity to ride this were really given much hands-on opportunity with the Groupset either. The last thing I'll say is, so the way timing works in this country anyway, so I woke up this morning to the GCN video. Now, at the time, there was no GCN video, which I thought was super weird, because when you deal with... There was obviously an embargo on this, and like anytime you see an embargo, it's like the minute the embargo drops, all the videos just suddenly hit. Like Tech World are great for this. And no GCN video. And I put it in our show notes. I was like, why is GCN not doing a video about this?
Yeah.
Wake up this morning, GCN video's live. And again, it was super weird. It was Ollie had been given the bike to ride for 40 Ks. He did his press release stuff, which is all fine, but it kind of sensed like they turned up to the Campy warehouse and were like, oh, we'll just take this thing out for a spin, shall we? Yeah. All right. See you in a couple of hours. All right, bye.
Why do you think they were late? What the editing took long, or did they say something they weren't supposed to and had to go back to the production room?
That's potentially the case.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
it seems really weird that they were 20 hours behind everyone else.
Yep,
strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, very very weird. And given this event occurred a while ago, seemingly at least last week, from what I can kind of gather reading between the lines of it.
So what are people saying then? Or should we start? What do you think of it? You've watched the videos, you've gotten a grasp on it. What do you?
Hang on. Can we talk a bit about? I just want to keep talking a little bit about the launch of it.
All right.
Because you got all shitty on Twitter about Shane Miller saying that the launch was underwhelming.
Yeah. So Shane Miller said that he was surprised at the lack of coverage of it. And I don't understand the lack of coverage. It was all over my YouTube feed. Every online cycling magazine website had done an article on it. I just didn't understand what he was getting at with that. So that's why I responded to that tweet saying, in my online space, this is everywhere.
Yeah.
The way it's been covered, as you said, is quite strange in that they've seemingly only got it for an hour. But the coverage I thought was pretty good. The only space it was lacking was on Instagram. And if it's lacking on Instagram, it means people don't have their hands on it, because I only follow individuals on Instagram. So the influencers and the pros or whoever else usually get it are obviously not getting it in their hands, because I didn't see it on Instagram. I don't follow like Cycling Weekly on Instagram.
Okay.
So I get that, but I didn't understand. I thought the coverage was good overall.
Yeah. Well, I potentially think that might just be his bubble being the written media thing was not as, I suppose, the big press releasey stuff didn't seem to be as in your face as a Shane. As like, I don't know, mate.
I googled Campagnolo wireless and it's 8 different news articles on it. Didn't quite understand.
Fair enough. But even just the launch of it, I don't know. The timing was weird. A group set like this normally gets pushed up right close next to the Tour de France.
I was going to go. Do you reckon they're not going close to the Tour because there's too much competition around releases? Isn't this a good time? Giro's over. Nothing really else to talk about. Let's launch the product now so we're not fighting with all the other stuff that gets media attention at the Tour.
No. I mean, this should be the biggest release. It should be the biggest release. Okay, the only thing that would probably be bigger would be a specialized SL8. I reckon that's your tier of how important this is. We'll get onto the product itself, but like, it again is just really weird that we haven't had did you see Greg Van Avermaet riding the new white? Like there'd be that leaking stuff coming out. So clearly they've locked all that down. Or my thoughts that the team don't want to ride it, potentially.
Is it not in production?
Yep.
Yes,
could be the case.
Can you? I mean, was there did you see any release dates? Is this thing available to buy?
This comes back to the thing about how weird this launch is. Like it's the laziest launch, and I'll use that word a lot in the next 30 minutes. It's the laziest launch I think I've ever seen. It's like, no, here's the idea of a group set. Meh. What do you think?
Yeah. It's like, to me, it's almost like the L2 electronic one where Joe just went to that island in China and they filmed it for an hour and that's it. It's very similar.
Twitter's, Campag's own Twitter feed hasn't, to date, when we're recording this, hasn't posted about it.
Really?
Their last post was about Eckhart.
Oh, okay. It's strange.
It's just weird. Yet the Campy YouTube channel has released the sort of the promo video.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Just it's like, oh, did anyone put it out on Twitter? Oh shit, we forgot. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe it was the same guy who was operating the Giro Twitter account at the time. All right. So that's kind of the launch. Which actually last thing on the launch. Did you watch the Cycling Weekly one?
Yeah, I watched it after you said go and watch this. What was the problem with the Cycling Weekly?
Wow, like he just trashed it, absolutely trashed it.
Yeah,
from beginning to end. He has a very nice tone about the way he presents stuff, and it's normally you kind of think, oh, this is going to be fluff, but it wasn't fluff. He basically said it looks like shit and doesn't shift. So yeah,
Is it okay? Isn't that a good thing?
oh, it's brilliant.
Haven't we been critical of those media outlets for not being critical enough?
100%. Absolutely, totally agree. But I'm going to get onto this a little bit later because I think like criticizing.
Well, let's go there now.
All right, let's go there now. Criticizing Campy it's an easy target. So by that I mean you kind of come across as being, really authentic and honest, whereas it's an easy target because they don't really matter. And the people, so the people who are the diehard Campy fans are probably kind of shitty at the group set anyway, because they would have much preferred it to be a mechanical rim brake version in the first place.
Yeah.
So to just trash it is, I'm totally hear what you're saying. Yes, it's great that we're beyond this kind of thing, but
is it maybe also because Campy don't seem to spend as much money on the marketing, so the journalists are less scared to say anything too critical because you're going to really go hard on SRAM? Probably not, because you don't bite the hand that feeds you. But Campy, they don't show much love for us anyway, so let's just kick him. I mean, I think the things that they said were valid, but you're thinking, geez, if that was another brand, would they go as hard? Yeah, I think there's something in that.
Like if you're in a magazine or something like that and you're relying on Campy's releases to, maintain your magazine, it's not going to go well for you. They release something every decade, so that's not good. But if you keep SRAM on board, they're releasing something every 6 months, and it creates buzz, and they do a great job putting it out. You're not going to bite that hand as much as you're going to bite a Campy hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think in terms of the other reviews, the Dave Arthur video was true Dave Arthur form, and that's why I like what he does is you're not expecting that. So you went to the Dave Arthur video knowing you were just going to get, what is this thing? And you didn't get that. Yeah, the Cycling Weekly one was sort of out of characterly critical, I would say, from the rest of this.
You got into the second half of that video and you're like, whoa, what? he doesn't shift. Like, what? Yeah.
Well, let's can we go into the actual product? What do we think? What's our takeaways?
Can you start this, Jesse? I just feel like I'm so hurt by this.
It was not very good. So we just it's going to sound very hypocritical for us to bash Cycling Weekly for criticizing it, and then we come on and criticize it.
I'm not bashing Cycling Weekly. I'm just saying it's an easy target. Like Campy's an easy target. That's literally all I'm saying.
I mean, you got some things here. I mean, the one thing that stood out for me was, correct me if I'm wrong, 750 kilometer battery life, 750k. The shifting. That can't be right.
No, I don't think that's right, because I saw some other stuff where they were saying that the battery life is comparable to SRAM and Shimano. So I feel like that's a weird number. And they also kind of said like
that's got to be
750 k's of hard riding.
What is 750k is like a big training week.
Can't ride hard. I'm on a 750k. Yeah, what?
Yeah, if that's true, that's terrible. Who wants to charge their derailleur batteries every week and a half? That's
yeah. In the world of, aren't we all doing ultra distance events that take 3 days now?
Yeah.
So there you go. You have to take a.
That was the one that stood out for me. What do you got?
All right. Okay. Let's go through this. Okay. Now I want to start with a positive. Well, no positive. Yeah. I have to try because I don't want to.
Yeah.
So this might sound stupid, but an on-off switch is kind of nice. I do feel like there is a use case for that, especially the travel thing. Turning the whole system off is very, very good. And I had it on that, the FSA group set.
Yep.
And it actually does kind of, it's quite good sort of mentally. It's like, oh, okay, finish my ride, turn it off.
Yeah.
It works, and it kind of keeps you in tune with like how much battery life you got. Anyway, there we go.
An off button.
An off button.
Sheesh. We've
Talked about that for 3 minutes. There you go.
All right. What else?
So no defly button. So no button on top of the hoods. I mean, that's why there's a wireless group set. A wireless group set is designed for lots of different shifting options. You know, friggin' satellite shifters on your helmet, like anywhere, everywhere. That's the whole point of a wireless thing. You know, shifting on your watch. No shift, no option to have that is just completely bizarre. Okay. The rear mech is... I'm being surprised by the reaction to this because everyone's criticizing the front mech. I just think the rear mech is ridiculous. It looks like it's the biggest booty I've ever seen on anything, and it's completely out of shape with the way the bike should look because the chain sets and the cranks have become smaller due to the bizarro SRAM modified sort of ratios. That derailleur now is massive and looks about the same size as the crank set, which again just looks completely, from a design aesthetic, completely wrong. Where am I going to go with this? Okay, the thumb shifter.
That's one that, yeah.
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on this. So, we did it because to get ourselves more, we surveyed some people and they don't like thumb shift. Fuck off. What are you talking about? Campy's selling point is the bang, 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 bang. That's the best part of it. So the real reason they didn't do it, production. Has to be production. So these things, Campy don't own their own factories. So they might assemble the products in a Campy factory, but they don't actually make the product in a factory. So what are you doing? You're going to a factory in China and saying, make us stuff. What's a cheaper thing to do? Make us something that is basically very, very similar to every other electronic group set out there with everything on the brake lever, or let's make a whole new mold and everything, a whole new production suite for a little thumb shift.
But the weird thing on that is twofold. Firstly, Campy have never been shy of high manufacturing costs. Look at that crank set, the way that thing goes together with the teeth, and I mean, that thing's cost a fortune to make. And also, they already had an electronic shifting thumb shifter. So maybe they had to change factories and their new factory wasn't willing to, or it was too hard to do that. But they already had the electronic thumb.
The mechanics of it would be very, very different with a wireless setup. That's wired in there. So I can imagine the changes that they would have had to make there, taking that to a factory. And
it is a smaller shifter too, physically. Yeah. So maybe, yeah, they couldn't fit it into that smaller body. But yeah, the thumb shifter was what made Campy Campy. I've used the thumb shifter.
Love it.
Love or hate it, I loved it. It was cool. And now you've just got this really expensive Shimano thing. It doesn't make any sense why they would have gotten rid of that.
While we're going down conspiracy corner, I'm going to throw a conspiracy theory into why we now have a 10-tooth. So it is not pedaling efficiency. I do believe it very much comes back to the fact that we now obviously they've stuck with a 12-speed group set.
Yep. And
the patents that exist around Shimano and their rear derailleur are really based on an 11 up arc or parallel, whatever you want to call it, of shift. And so the only way Campy are working around that is to change that arc and bring in the 10-tooth sprocket.
Okay, maybe. I haven't researched the patents to confirm whether that's true or not. I would say, though, the 10-tooth gets an unnecessary amount of hate. So the people that are against the 10-tooth say, well, it's so inefficient because the chain's so tight. But, the average punter is probably never even using the 10-tooth in the big ring anyway. And if they are, do they care if they're losing a watt or a couple of watts? No. I mean, if you're pedaling even in the 11 or 12 in the big ring, you're going 55 plus K an hour anyway. So this hating on the 10-tooth because it's inefficient, I think, is totally misplaced.
Yeah.
And the 10, if you use it for a minute on a ride, as you go on a downhill, sure, have it. But it's never really getting that much use anyway.
Have you seen the picture of the, like, that just comes back to the aesthetic, and it matters because it's campy,
I know
right?
what you're going to say.
Like, you see that derailleur in the 10 tooth, and on those tiny chain rings now, it just looks like it's all like...
It's really tucked up.
Yeah.
It's really,
And it just overplays the size of the derailleur now. The derailleur looks bigger than the rear wheel.
It's fake news because no one's using the 10. No one's right. Who's doing 400 watts at 60k an hour? No one. So it's a bit... If you're racing, you have bigger chain rings anyway. So a 5311's fine. I don't see it. I think it's just there so they can say, oh, we cover the same range of gears. I don't think it's actually intended to be useful to anyone.
Well, that's probably the last question. Sorry, I feel like I'm not down. No, I am down, actually.
Yeah.
My last question is, is this, like, is it relevant? Like,
well, let's just go into the price.
Oh, yeah.
So the price you've put in here in our notes, 5,000 Australian. Wow.
Yeah,
it's not 5,000 Australian, Chris. So you were shocked at that. It's 8,000. It's 5,400 US.
Yep.
Which is 8,300. What are we? I don't even know.
So I wrote down there that 2020, we raced the first year's Continental team. We raced on a mixture of Campy Record and Campy Chorus mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Team won a lot of races. Was a really, really outstanding group set. And that group set cost, now we got a wholesale-ish discount, basically a bulk buying discount, was 1,100 Australian dollars. 1,100 Australian dollars for a fully functioning race group set. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are now.
It is. Yeah. Well, I let's go, because I said this a few months ago, in that these people that are willing to spend $30,000.
These people, Larry, he said it.
These people, these COVID babies, willing to spend $30,000 on a bike, are killing the value range, the mid range. And I unfortunately, I really feel like this is another step away from the mid range. When there's people out there and the brand see people spending 8,000 Australian dollars on a group set, that's just dragging you further and further away from a good value 105 level group set. And it's really, I said it before, and I think I can't help but feel this is really going further away. If we do, so I did a little look on, okay, well, this is Super Record. It's never meant to be affordable. What is this meant for other brands across their range of the trickle down stuff? So Shimano 105 Di2, for example, new now for the entire group set, that's 2,340. The mechanical version, 11 speed, was about $900 retail. You can get it now for $680. So, yeah, that 105 Di2's an example of it's just creeping. It's just creeping away. The ship is sailing away. You get Di2. Personally, I really like electronic. I think for a beginner, electronic is no maintenance. It's just a no-brainer. It's so much better than mechanical. But as they make them more expensive, they make them disc only. The 105 Di2's disc only. For a beginner, I think in a lot of places, rim brakes are perfectly fine. Don't need disc, and they're not doing the rim brake anymore. It's all going to be electronic, and the era of a bike under $4,000 entry level is going to be gone.
Yeah. So, okay, there's kind of two ways I want to take this. I hear what you're saying about those people. Those people, is that what we're calling?
Yeah.
And maybe I still am, feeling like I need to defend them, but you're breaking me down with this argument now, because I'm starting to feel like there are repercussions for their actions.
But no. Wow. It's not an us versus. It's not an us versus them.
No.
It's the brands. It's the brands that are doing it. They're the ones that are not because they're the ones that are supposed to offer the range of products, and they should be able to do both. I feel like, yeah, they're starting to creep away from that lower end. So it's not really about the person that's willing to spend $30,000 on a bike. It's the brands potentially caving in and just going, oh, we can't be bothered making a good value performance group set anymore.
And it's the dangerous end of this is, it's like I was saying to you the other day, is it's the disposable nature of what these things have become to the people who've got, and I don't want to go on and on about it, but it is, at this point, from what I can see, people have got into the sport more recently. It's the disposable nature of it. And it's this quote that I've seen a few times, and these are people who, you know, the only bike they've ridden is a Trek Madone or a Pinarello Dogma with Di2 kind of thing. And I've heard it a few times now of this thing of, oh, well, you know, cycling's going to keep me busy for a couple more years, you know,
yeah,
keep me going. I'm like, what? Because we're like lifelongers, and probably most of the people listening and watching this are probably lifelongers, and so have a little bit of investment into what's coming in the future. No, that sounds lame, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas I think there's something here. Yeah.
The concept of like, oh yeah, I'll do this for a couple more years, and I'm going to get into sailing. Yeah, or something else. You know, meanwhile, you know, the price of everything's just jacked up because these guys they not only are willing to spend it, but they want to spend it.
Desperate to.
They're desperate to. Which brings me on my second point. And I reached out to a couple of bike shop owners and things just around the place, just about this particular release. And I was kind of surprised by the reply of it. One of the ones which I've talked about a little bit is obviously Caish, and because their clientele's almost that rider. And they kind of think this will be a bit of a litmus test for, will this be...
What do you mean, this being the group set?
Yeah, this will be a litmus test for that attitude of more expensive, desperately want it, no matter what. Because there's so many drawbacks to this, especially in Australia, because, you know, the reality is that stock, you know, that was always been the criticism here, is it's just getting stock is so hard. And so if you get this group set and spent $8,500 on, and your rear derailleur snaps, you're probably not only up for another $4,000 for your rear derailleur, but you probably don't have a derailleur for a few months. So they're really interested to see if this will be the kind of straw that breaks the camel's back here.
It'll sell. Is there any doubt? It's going to sell. And it's going to be profitable for the shops that sell it. There's always, especially in Sydney, there's demand. Everyone's going to want it. I don't have any, you know, question about whether that's going to be hot or not.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
What do you think? It's just too? Do you think the price is too high? I think they're just an absolute.
I just think it's a really niche market. So that absolute cashed up new cyclist, because let's be honest, this has turned off the campy crowd. There's no diehard campy person who's seen that and gone, yes, gonna get that on my Colnago C60. I mean, I don't think. Prove me wrong.
But yeah, then it goes into a discussion of, well, what is a lot? Because if you're a bike shop and you sell 20 of these,
is true.
You know, potentially that's a good little sales thing. Can we go into the group set sort of wars there? Because I had a thing about the group sets, and I think it's done. I think the group set wars are over. I would say this 2023, you're buying a new bike. You're going and you're on the Factor website and you're picking your model. I think the group set choice that you're picking is taking up far less mental real estate than it was 6 years ago. I think most people would just be as happy as a Tegra Di2, SRAM Force, whatever. I'll ride it. Pretty cool. And I asked you, would you ride SRAM Red? Yeah, sure. 100%. Cool. I'll do it. Yeah. There you go. I've answered it.
We are not a very good example. We are not. Okay, the whole Roglic thing, that blew my mind. So the chain comes off. No.
Oh, we're going to get onto that.
Are we?
Yeah.
But that's the catalyst for my defense here.
No. Vocal minority. That's that's just the people who's like, it's a recreational sport to hate on SRAM. That's the very small people. I think most people buying a new bike that aren't in that tiny little slither couldn't care less whether it's SRAM or Shimano.
But the SRAM crowd defending it was like, how dare you criticize my youngest child like this? I will defend it with every power in my being. I just couldn't believe that. And I do know some of these people. I'm like, why do you care so much? Like, seriously.
Besides that, though, if you took that aside, remember, okay, 6-7 years ago, you rock into a crit. There's a guy on SRAM ETAP 11 speed, and he's the SRAM guy. And you're like, oh, what's it like? He was like this brave warrior, and he actively had decided not to buy Shimano. And he was a bit kooky. Now it's like, whatever. And I think there's probably kudos to SRAM for capturing so much of the market. But now it's, who cares? It's just, I wouldn't know.
I think the war's going to get bigger and better as it goes along, just because the reality is that SRAM's market share is still much less than Shimano's, and as that gap gets closer and closer and closer, you haven't really seen a pushback in the war from the Shimano crowd. Really, they haven't started. They're just doing their own thing. They pretend that SRAM doesn't exist, basically, which I kind of feel is a good thing, because their products are somewhat different in a sense to SRAM. That will eventually change, and we'll have our third and fourth parties coming in with the L2s and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I feel like, yeah, it's going to get. I hear what you're saying. I just don't think we're very good examples of this.
Well, let's see. Let's see. I mean, the people in the comments will decide. I honestly think it's much of a muchness now. No one really cares. I'll ride whatever. That's my vibe.
All right. Okay. I think I'm done. Yeah.
If anyone's still listening.
If anyone's still listening. Yeah. Actually, if anyone is still listening, I rode a Campy EPS Groupset 2016, 17, somewhere around there. On a Legend 11.5. If you own that a Legend 11.5, get in contact with me. I want to buy that back off you and build up a rim brake bike.
Oh,
you know what I mean? The white one. I'll put a picture of it. Yeah.
Giro chat. Anything from the wrap up? I got a few bits from the time trial that were interesting. Marginal gains turning to losses. What a joke that was. Firstly, you got Garrett Thomas's bike change. It's the time trial, the Giro you're trying to win, and he's there, drops his bike down, take the helmet off. Oh, you got a fresh one, put it on. It's like, mate, what are you doing? Meanwhile, Primoz rolls in, off, guy catches it on, he's gone, and Garrett Thomas is there like fixing his hair. What the hell are you doing? Honestly, I have no words to explain how stupid that was. I timed it. He lost 8 seconds just in the bike change. Like, 8 seconds. You know how much time that is? You know how many more watts you have to do to make up 8 seconds? Just a joke. An honest joke. I just think these performance directors or whoever's organizing this stuff, it's just a clown show. And then you've got Primoz running his special mountain bike super easy gearing thing and drops his chain. How many we chatted about it for Worlds TT, drop chains. It's no good if you drop your chain. And it wasn't, he hit a pothole and the chain came off. What the hell? He almost lost the Giro because his chain came off. Surely we can get a group set together that has easy gearing and doesn't have the chain come off. Does it come off because could you not just put a derailleur on there to keep it on? Because it was one by, right? It was one by.
Okay.
I don't know why it came off. Did it come off the front? Did it come off the rear? Because I think he was in the easiest gear at the point it came off. Was it because there was no clutch on the derailleur, so there wasn't enough tension? Did he need, I don't know if he was running a chain keeper on the front chain ring. I don't know. I just know that people ride mountain bikes over rocks and their chain doesn't come off, and Primoz hits a pothole and his chain comes off. And it is a joke. It is. Imagine losing the Giro because your chain comes off.
Giro coverage. Did you any takeaways from it? Did you watch GCN? Did you watch, because, you were talking about how you were going to approach it, whether there was a protocol involved. How did it formulate?
It all went out the window.
Yeah.
I would open the stage on the Giro. Actually, I'd open the highlights package and I would skip through the highlights package just so I could see what had happened, and that's it. So I'd probably spend 5 minutes a day on my highlights. That was it. I just lost it. I've unfortunately lost interest in actually watching this stuff play out. I just don't care.
So I had an interesting, well, I don't know if it's interesting, but so again, the way it works in Australia is the race starts about 8:30 p.m., somewhere around there, and they roll out from the gun, they do the coverage. And I found that the first hour of the race, which I would watch live, so was not only the most entertaining, but, and I think this just comes down to the fact that they had nothing else to talk about, but the commentary team, so they would start with 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
So it was normally Rob Hatch, Sean Kelly, and one more. It could be Robbie, could be one of the other guys, and they had them. And there was real good energy in that chat for the first hour, and there was stuff happening because normally breaks were sort of going, and if it was boring, there was good chat for that first hour, and they'd often then cut to the person on the bike. So they would have had Contador, I think they had Jens. Jens was good. I kind of liked a bit of Jens. I never really liked him, but I liked the way he sort of fitted into that first hour, really good.
Mm.
I reckon they just ran out of steam because I would watch sometimes that last 30, 40 minutes of the actual coverage, not the highlights. And I kind of get the feeling that the commentators had just run out of steam after 4 hours of commentating, that the energy was gone.
Well, the last parts of the stage always play out in slow motion anyway. Mm. I should have also said I did the same as you. Every night I would watch the start of the stage. So I probably, that 5 minutes per stage is not true. That's only 5 minutes of the end. I would always watch maybe until like 11 o'clock at night, the start of the stage, just to clarify. And I 100% agree. But I think that's also just how dynamic the racing is at the start. Generally at the end, it's boring. Everyone's tired and the group's slowly blowing apart in slow motion. So who cares?
Yeah. No. Yeah, just wanted to say that because I think that GCN's coverage, that's a good formula you had. That hour, you basically have 3 people in studio, 1 person out there. I rate that. I think that was really, really good. You can get around it. Giro 2023, done. But Enve Melee.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember it. Yeah.
So, okay, so little backstory to this. I walked into a bike shop during the week, and there it was, the frame, grey sort of thing sitting there in the corner. I looked at it and I was like, that's the Enve Melee. It's like, I remember when they launched that. And I say that because it was kind of a big deal. Well, at least it certainly got into my bubble, and it was coming out as this SL7 killer. And a lot of what I was seeing was probably legit because, Enve is a brand that has a kind of a performance following. The SL7 crowd would kind of buy into that brand as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me sort of thinking, like, did it flop because it was a shit bike? Did it flop because they didn't market it properly? Like, any thoughts yourself?
Thoughts. So a few things. Firstly, I watched a Oompa Loompa cycling video, and the guy had an Enve Melee, and he goes into a lot of detail around why I think this flopped. Couple of things from that. Firstly, it just doesn't look cool.
Mm.
If you're buying an Enve product, you're usually buying it because it looks cool and you love the branding. It's just a grey frame. It looks like it could just be an OEM from a factory anywhere. So the branding, they flopped on it. If you're riding this, no one really knows you're on an Enve. It's like the if you know, you know crowd.
Mm.
So that's probably the biggest reason. If you're buying an Enve, you're a frother. This is not froth worthy. And then the other thing is, I would say it's too good of a bike.
Mm.
It's from the guy's review on Oompa Loompa Cycling, he said it's very well-rounded, it's very comfortable, the handling's great with the geometry, I'm sorry, that's not selling. People, it's not getting anyone excited. If it's a new product, it has to do something really well. It has to be either really light or really aero, or it has to have some special quality. The Enve Melee is too good of a bike. It's too well-rounded. Why would you buy this?
I kind of feel like, so it did the 35 mil tires. I think clearance for 35 mil tires.
Yep.
And eyelids for fenders.
Yep.
And you're putting it up against the SL7. Like, yeah, I just don't understand why that was the route you took. Your bike, which you have this brand that people froth your wheels, your bars, your stem. They sort those out because they are so cool and so performance orientated. Yeah, I've never ridden any of this, but you know, I'd go so much faster on 100%, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, but that bike just didn't tick any of those boxes. I think they totally got it wrong. And also, I did ask Grant a little bit about this, and he mentioned that the way that it was a very difficult bike. Well, there was big delays on the bikes actually arriving. So they put an order in, I think in 2020 or 2021, for a big swathe of these bikes, and they didn't turn up for another 10 months. And so by that point, the buzz of that launch had gone, and they were just stuck with these grey frames with fender mounts. And you're like, well, how am I going to push this out? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the custom geometry ones are still made in the US. So that's unique. The custom frame sizing is very niche though. I don't think that does much. If you're really into the custom route, you're probably Bastion.
Yep.
You're probably maybe Italian bespoke. You're probably not going to ride some grey Envy. It doesn't really fit.
Yeah.
But then bringing that to that performance versus froth chat we've continually had, from a lot of the reviews of the Envy, it's really good. It's seemingly quite aero, very comfortable. It's probably pretty stiff. I'm sure it's a great bike. But that doesn't sell. It doesn't matter if it's a good bike. It has to be froth worthy. And yeah, that's another one in the people buy because of froth, which now that I think of it, I have been saying people buy because of performance. Damn it. I'm arguing against myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. So I pulled out of the CUDA race the other week.
Yep.
And you went.
Yeah.
By yourself.
Yep.
Yes, your wife didn't go. No.
By myself.
Yeah. So I'm interested about that because we have discussed this a little bit in the past about, you know, how to make, you know, racing and these events cheaper. You go with a mate, etc., etc. But how did you find it as a flying solo? Like, was it this particular event? Like, you didn't need feed zone, so logistically, it's not a challenge.
It's very easy logistically.
Did you enjoy it as just a solo rider? Like,
I enjoyed it because I did well. If I had gone down and we didn't catch on either, because there were a handicap, meaning you go off in your group, you chase the groups in front of you, and then first across the line wins. Everyone mixed together. Now I was in the last group off. We managed to catch. Or we almost caught on the first day. One guy stayed away. We caught on the second day, which means we're in it for the win. I got the prize money. I did well. So I was happy. But that could very easily on these handicap weekends. You go on, you don't catch, you get 12th, you get $50, and you just go, this was a complete and utter waste of time. So whether I enjoyed the weekend or not was entirely dependent on getting results, which is not the best way.
So for like, let's say then going forward, like would you be entering an event as a solo and just go down and do it, or did you like?
Oh, I almost didn't go.
Yeah.
No, it's so much. It's so. And you're doing a 4-hour drive on your own. I almost didn't go. And the other problem is, knew it was on because I was there. This is a state level race. It's run by Oz Cycling New South Wales. There was not a single photographer on the course. There was not a single photo at the finish line. At the prize presentations, which had a whole separate, it was at like an RSL club. There was a whole prize presentation. It had a sash, prize money being handed out, envelopes.
Sash, beautiful.
There wasn't even someone with a phone there taking photos. So for this entire weekend, there is not a single digital trace of evidence that it happened, which I find unbelievable because there's probably about 10 Oz Cycling New South Wales staff there, and not one of them could at least pull out their phone and spend 5 seconds taking a photo, there's no surprise that no one's going to these events because no one knows they're on. It's just a complete... Unless you really love racing like I do, why would you go?
Well, that's kind of where I wanted to take this, because you, as a coach, are you almost are you trying to sell to your riders to go to some of these?
I actively say don't go. There's some people that are real keen racers and they're trying to develop, and I say you've got to get out and do these because they're really useful skills wise and good experience to have. But if you're not that, I say do not waste your time. It's the worst way to spend a weekend, and there's no buzz. There's no hype because no one knows they're on.
Which is probably where all the fondos come in.
Yep.
You know, you walk away from a fondo, you got 700 photos of yourself. There's all these other guys and girls doing it. There's an event village.
Yep. A fondo, a barrel classic, just absolutely takes a dump on a state race weekend. It is not even... You leave Snowy Classic and you're like, wow, I've been to a music concert. I've participated. That was awesome. You leave these things, if you didn't get any result, you're like, I'm never, ever going to one of these ever again. And I've literally said that to you multiple times. Yes. I'm like, why do I bother?
I'm damn impressed you went.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next little question for you, I'm just hitting you with a few here.
Can I just say, that sounds a bit negative, but it really is, because it's not that hard to pull out your phone and take a photo of the people that bloody won the thing. It's the least you could do as the people that organise the race. To not do that, I'm like, you couldn't be any lazier than to not even take a photo. It's sickening.
Because the whole, you were saying, because there's a presentation. And it was this really weird scenario because you're doing the presentation for the win. And normally you then turn to the photographer and everyone smiles and looks.
Yeah.
And you're there going, what happened?
You walk up, shake your hand, take your cash and, go sit down. And I said a speech. Would you like to say a few words? I'm thinking, for what? I mean, yeah, I will, because these races, really sad because these races are run by the local clubs, the volunteers, Cootamundra Cycling Club, it's really, so you say a few things because these people are spending their time putting these events on, and it's not their fault, but you're saying this speech to a room of people, and it's fun. It's very awkward.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought that up is as a solo person, you're not able to share that chat with anyone. You're just sort of just there going, right, well, next, I suppose. Anyone. I was very impressed that you went. Put it that way.
So close to not going.
I was very impressed. The only other thing I was going to ask you then is, so before I got sick, I was doing a good bit of local club racing. Okay, and I have a unsubstantiated theory. There we go. That's a segment we used to do.
Oh, we've done. Yeah, we've got
done
it. Research
Here we
fact.
go. Unresearched fact that coaches, you are killing local racing.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Wow.
Hear me out. All right. So not at a B grade, C grade kind of level, because I do feel that most coaches are letting, quote unquote, their riders do these races. But there's this next step up, and I think the coach starts to take on a bit more of a no. Your race calendar is, because you've probably got a race calendar now, right? You're starting to get to that level, so you've got maybe 4 or 5 events this year, maybe not that many, but around that sort of thing. And a local club race is viewed poorly by said coach because obviously it's not a what am I trying to say? It's there's no set sort of metrics from it. It's not a particular session. It's hard to work out sort of the benefits of it from that perspective. So, and just the pure on the ground numbers that I've seen, it's B grade, great numbers, 15 riders plus.
Mm-hmm.
A grade, barely 3 people.
I personally couldn't disagree. I'm
Killing it.
Racing, get out there and race, right, to all the people I coach. But I reckon there's more people with coaches in B grade than A grade.
Oh, I agree.
Yep.
And that's kind of my point.
But so the A graders that aren't showing up, a lot of them I'm coached. I can't. I don't see it. I don't see it because a lot of the people I'm thinking of, where I'm thinking, why aren't you rocking up and racing? They don't have coaches.
See, I thought you were going to come back at me and say, no, it's not the coaches. It's the online training platforms.
Okay. That's another story. Yes.
I thought that's where you were going to take this.
That is a problem. That is, yeah, because to an online coaching bot, going out and doing a crit is just junk. It's like, what is this? It's just every zone, the zone buffet, as we would call it, just a little bit of everything. To a algorithm, it's junk.
Okay.
So definitely that. And it's hard to fit in. And then, what if I go and do that crit on the Saturday? And then, then my Sunday workout's kind of screwed. And then I'm not sure what to do Monday. I don't have anyone to change it for me. So yes, that's definitely a factor. But just in terms of coaching, there's most of the A graders I can think of, at least in Sydney, probably don't have a coach that aren't showing up.
My only other take on it was that racing's too hard, and like the actual races does actually fuck you. Like even a 40-minute crit or an hour crit is like, yeah, it's I just feel like,
well, in Sydney, I think it is. In a lot of the time, from the riders I coach, a lot of the time the racing isn't that hard.
Okay.
And then it really ends up becoming junk because you've gone and done this race and the train hasn't had that much of a training benefit, and maybe you've done a few attacks and sprinted at the end. And then so people probably, do start to go, well, this is not really achieving much training-wise. But our crits in Sydney probably are,
like there's that classic thing, if you do a Sunday crit here, like by lunchtime on Sunday, you're like, oh my God, when will this day end? Especially when you do that Southern Cross one, which is just like 40 minutes of a VO2 effort the whole time.
It's because our crits are always in parks, or they're really hard courses. A lot of the time for people listening in other parts of the world, it would be a rectangle in an industrial park and you're doing 100 watts in the wheels.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for watching this week. Again, guys, share this video on to people who you think might be down for this sort of stuff. That actually is the best way for us to keep growing. All right, JC.
See you next week.
See you next week.